First of all, I want to thank the CAA and Jessica for inviting me here today. It was an honor to hear all of your great speeches and by the previous speakers, and it's an honor to meet all of you. We are all here because as Asian Americans, there is nothing that we care about more than education and the success of our children. All of us are pursuing the American dream, and yet that dream is being threatened by a system of legalized racial discrimination that we call affirmative action. Let me tell you how I discovered affirmative action. When I was 12 years old, I applied to a New England prep school, not very far from here, I might add, called Roxbury Latin. Like a good little Indian kid, I got a perfect score on the entrance exam. Do you know what the Dean of Admissions told me? He said, "We see a lot of your people around here." Okay? And they rejected me. That is when I learned that there is something called affirmative action, and that it is perfectly legal to discriminate against Asian Americans and white people. I vowed that it would never happen to me again. 10 years later, when I was a student at the University of Chicago doing my pre-medical studies, I discovered that as an Asian American, I had a very low probability of admission. But an African American student with my same grades and test scores had a high chance of admission. So I came up with the scam, and yes, it was a scam, of shaving my head, trimming my long Indian eyelashes, joining the Organization of Black Students, and applying to medical school as a black man. And you better believe it worked. I got waitlisted at Washington University and the University of Pennsylvania School of Medicine. Those are the third and fourth best medical schools in the country at the time, despite the fact that I had a 3.1 GPA. Okay? And I got into St. Louis University, despite the fact that my GPA was dramatically lower than their average of 3.7. Even today, according to the American Association of Medical Colleges, an Asian American applicant with my 3.1 GPA and 31 MCAT score has an 18% chance of admission. A white student with those same grades and test scores has a 28% chance of admission. A Hispanic student with those same grades and test scores has a 48% chance of admission. And an African American student with those same grades and test scores has a 76% chance of admission. If I did the same thing today, I would improve my chances of admission by greater than 50%. I subsequently dropped out of medical school. I got my MBA at UCLA, which is a school that doesn't practice affirmative action in admissions. Thanks to the work of Ward Connerly and, to be honest, some of the people who have spoken on this stage today. At UCLA, I learned that it was possible to have a diverse class of African Americans, Asian Americans, Hispanics, and whites without practicing racial discrimination. Don't let anyone tell you that affirmative action racism is essential for a good education. These days, I work as a college and graduate school admissions consultant at sosadmissions.com. Our motto is get into your dream school because we help young people to achieve their educational dreams and aspirations. As part of my job, I I see the enormous impact that race has on admissions. I am well aware of the fact that it is much harder to get into college or graduate school as an Asian American than any other racial category. In fact, the discrimination is so bad that I recommend that my Asian American clients do not disclose their race on their application, as it can be shown statistically to dramatically reduce your chances of admission. And I recommend that all of you tell everyone you love to do the same thing. Okay? It is not a perfect solution. Thanks to Edward Bloom, Students for Fair Admission, the Asian American Coalition for Education, and dozens of other activist groups like this one, we know the full extent of Harvard's racism. I wanted to say that I am extremely impressed by the sneaky and crooked way that Harvard has tried to hide its racism against Asian Americans. Let me tell you something. Getting into medical school by posing as black is nothing compared to the scam that they have pulled. Harvard reduced representation in their school of Asian Americans by greater than 50% through racism. The simple truth is that for every Asian American student who graduated in Harvard's class of 2017, there is another Asian American student who is equally qualified somewhere in America who was rejected from Harvard solely because of the school's racist affirmative action policies. On behalf of the thousands of qualified Asian American applicants who were rejected from Harvard solely because of the school's racist affirmative action policies, I call for the resignation of Harvard's Dean of Admissions, William Fitzsimmons. For 3 decades, Dean Fitzsimmons has been the architect of Harvard's racist affirmative action policies. A man who has destroyed the dreams of hundreds of thousands of young people whose only crime was the color of their skin and the shape of their eyes. But affirmative action is a nationwide problem that stretches far beyond Harvard. More than 100 universities publicly endorsed racial discrimination against Asian Americans and white people in the Supreme Court's Fisher decision. We know that thanks to Edward Bloom. Over the last year, those same colleges and universities sent out hundreds of thousands of rejection letters and received tens of billions in federal government money. They are literally taking your hard-earned money and using it to discriminate against you. Make no mistake, affirmative action is a nationwide system of government-funded, state-sponsored racism that is as ingrained in our society today as imperialism was in the time of Gandhi, as segregation was in the time of Martin Luther King, and as apartheid was in the time of Mandela. As in prior ages, we are fortunate to have people with the courage to fight racism. Edward Bloom, Students for Fair Admission, the Asian American Coalition for Education, and many other groups, including this one, are the Rosa Parks of our time. exactly what is happening. Regardless of how you feel about President Trump or your political affiliation, you cannot deny the fact that President Trump has been our greatest ally in the fight against affirmative action racism.
Yes.
Trump appointed affirmative action opponents to the Supreme Court and the Department of Justice. For the first time in the history of our nation, we have an anti-affirmative action majority in the Supreme Court.
Yes.
The Department of Justice has opened investigations into the illegal discrimination practices of elite universities. This upcoming election, who you vote for can literally mean the difference between your child getting accepted or rejected from the college of their dreams, especially if you are an Asian American. So vote for candidates who oppose affirmative action racism. Don't wait until your child or someone you love gets a rejection letter from the college of their dreams.
That was a very powerful speech. I encourage you to buy this book. And if you have Amazon Prime, you can order 70 dinner, or you might get an autograph from Vijay.